Good afternoon. This is the planning and zoning of the City of Socorro. This is the planning and zoning of the City of Socorro Commission, the City of Socorro, Texas. It is May 2nd, 2023, 5:31 p.m. We call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon. Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
David Estrada,
Here.
Julie Dominguez,
Here.
Osvaldo Reza,
Here.
Maria Martinez, absent. We have a quorum with 6 commissioners present. Item number 3, notice to the public, open forum. Isabel, do we have anyone that would like to speak? No, thank you. Item number 4, consent agenda.
I make a motion. Oh,
Do I have a second?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve and second by Julie Dominguez. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. I do apologize, we do have a quorum with 5 commissioners present. Regular agenda discussion and action, item number 5, public hearing request for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Block 1, Lot 1B, Trujillo Subdivision, Unit 2, Replat A, located at 10330 Socorro Road, Socorro, Texas, from A1 agricultural to R2 medium density residential to allow for a multi-family residential development. Mr. Arroyos?
Good afternoon. We open public hearing at 5:32. We have anybody? No? Okay. We close public hearing at 5:33.
Item number 6, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's Master Plan and rezoning of Block 1, Lot 1B, Trujillo Subdivision, Unit 2, Replat A, located at 10330 Socorro Road, Socorro, Texas, from A1 agricultural to R2 medium density residential to allow for a multi-family residential development. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Jose Botello, planner with the City of Socorro. Item number 6 on the agenda is a rezoning request of 10330 Socorro Road. The summary of the request is for approval of a rezoning from A1 agricultural to R2 medium density residential to allow for a multifamily residential development. Some background on this case, it's currently zoned A1, which is agricultural. The size of the property is 2.36 acres. It's located at 10330 Socorro Road. It is currently vacant. The future land use map has it as agricultural land, and the proposed land use is residential, which would be 10 residential lots and 1 ponding area. The request is to approve the rezoning from A1 to R2 to allow for a multifamily residential development, and planning and zoning staff recommends approval. So on the next slide, you'll see the location map. It is on Socorro Road. The zoning map showing the agricultural zoning and the zoning areas around the property. And a few pictures of the property currently. And then we have an aerial image showing the size of the property. The public notice that was given for the rezoning in tan color. And this is a replat showing the 10 lots with the additional 20-foot dedicated right-of-way to add to Cupic Road. And once again, the summary of the request is for approval of rezoning from A1 agricultural to R2 medium-density residential to allow for a multifamily residential development. And at this time, I can answer any questions.
I don't have any questions. Anybody? Mr. Estrada?
I don't.
Mr. Dominguez?
What's the, I can't tell on here, but what's the minimum lot size on these, more or less? Is it,
They're about 6,300 to, I think the biggest one is 8,300 square feet.
okay. What's the minimum lot size for an R2?
6,000.
6,000?
Yeah. They're not asking for any, what do you call it? All these lots are within the parameters of an R2.
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay, the other parcel, can you put this one on there? Or something showing that other corner parcel that's up there on the upper right-hand side, on our side? We did something with that recently, no? But-
It was rezoned to R1 in 2022.
2022
It was zoned from A1 to R1
to R1,
in
And so-
April of 2022.
okay. And so there's an existing structure there, it's a home.
It's an existing, and if I remember correctly, I think they came and rezoned, and they had like an accessibility easement that we left to the back, so that,
There's a little variance on
yeah.
the variance. All right, okay, I'm good.
And just to clarify, in order to go from an R2 to an R1, instead of it being a 6,000-foot minimum, it would have to go to a 10,000 square foot minimum.
That's with the ponding area, correct? With, I'm sorry, without a ponding area? With a ponding area, it's 8,500 square feet.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve, second by Enrique Cisneros. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 7, public hearing request for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Block 3, Tract 4C, 6B, Socorro Grant, located at 975 Horizon Boulevard, Socorro, Texas, from A1 agricultural to R2 medium-density residential to allow for a multifamily residential development. Mr. Arroyos?
Good afternoon, we open public hearing at 5:39.
Javier Carrera? If you will, okay. Albert Ortiz? You have 3 minutes.
Kind of short. Good afternoon, Planning and Zoning Committee. Also, my neighbors are asking if we can put up the map for 975 Horizon. They were asking if we could, so we could see what. Okay. Anyway, real quick, because my 3 minutes are coming up. Okay, if it is done and they do make the apartments out there, my concern is there's a lot of traffic on Horizon already. I've been fighting for TxDOT to get a light, street light right there at Patty Joe and Horizon. So my thought is maybe you all can help us. If there's gonna be more people there, there's gonna be more traffic. The median also there in the middle. I mean, they made it kind of bad. TxDOT, I'm sorry, they really messed us up. To make a left turn is one. Now, if you get more people, they're gonna come out, they're gonna wanna make a U-turn. If there's a street light, it's gonna help the control of traffic. So that's basically my concern, is that to eliminate the median 1 and 2, a street light. Like I said, I've even gone with Ms. Adriana, the city manager, taking her signatures to get a street light, but TxDOT has shot us down. So maybe with you guys, you know, you can, if it is approved, we're gonna need a traffic light out there, more people, more traffic, it's that simple. There's other items, but I'll leave it because my 3 minutes are coming up. But thank you for putting up the map, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Juarez? Juarez? We do apologize, we just can't really read the writing. Julissa, I'm guessing? No? It would be for Arlene Circle? 10-8? No? Okay. So then we'll move with Pat Gardea? Okay. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I live behind, my backyard runs to the property. And I have a chain link fence. I have a ½ an acre and I have a chain link fence. So my question is, what kind of fence are they gonna put up? Is it gonna be a rock wall? Are they gonna have an alley between the fences? You know, how close is it gonna get to my property when they put up if they put up a fence? And then also Albert brought up the traffic, because, you know, you guys didn't do it, but TxDOT put that stupid medium where you have to go around and we're gonna need a stoplight. And then, I wanted to know how big are the apartment units? Is it gonna be like 2 floors, 3 floors? How many units are gonna be in each building? And then how many apartment units are there gonna be? Because it's a big, big land. And then also, if they have to put a Section 8 people in the apartment complex, if it's gonna have lower income, because that's gonna bring our property value down, and I don't want lower income behind my backyard. Because I lived there since '81, like everybody else, we have lived there since the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, and we don't want our property value going down if it's going to be if they're going to have Section 8. And then how long will it take to build the apartments? Is it going to be like a year or 6 months or whatever? And how bad is the construction going to be? Because it's just a dirt lot, and like I said, my house is right up to the lot, and I don't want to live with the mess. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Saucedo?
Good evening. My name's Sandy Saucedo, and I live at 10827 Patty Joe Drive. And the reason we're all here, our concerns, when they start building on 975 Horizon Boulevard, of course, the traffic. And then my second concern was our neighbors that live there on that strip that they're gonna put the apartments. Some of us have rock walls and some of us have chain link fences. And my concern was if they do build a rock wall there, how close it's going to be to our property. Or if they're gonna leave an alley, and we don't want that, an alley behind our property. And those are my concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak in reference to item number 7?
Good afternoon, my name is Arturo Galindo, I live in Arlene Circle. My concern is how security is gonna be comparing to the ones on the west side, northeast. It's gonna be an everyday thing with policemen or any kind of crime or just basically the security, how the security is going to be working. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? We're good? We're not? Okay. And I'm sorry, will you be part of the public hearing or in reference to the presentation?
The presentation.
Okay, if you could just give us a couple of minutes, let's
okay.
just close the public hearing,
All right.
and we'll start with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. So we will close public hearing at 5:47.
Item number 8, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's Master Plan and rezoning of Block 3, Track 4-C-6-B, Socorro Grant, located at 975 Horizon Boulevard, Socorro, Texas, from A1 agricultural to R2 medium-density residential to allow for a multifamily residential development. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Jose Botello, planner with the City of Socorro. Item number 8 is the rezoning request of 975 Horizon Boulevard. The summary of the request is for approval of a rezoning from A1 agricultural to R2 medium-density residential to allow for an apartment complex. Currently, the property is zoned A1 agricultural. The size of the property is 19.97 acres. It's located at 975 Horizon Boulevard. It's currently vacant, and the proposed land use is for residential, which would be 288 apartment units and 3 ponding areas. And the request is to approve rezoning from A1 agricultural to R2 medium-density residential to allow for an apartment complex. And planning and zoning staff recommends approval with the condition to approve the site plan with 288 units. So here's the location map. It is right on Horizon Boulevard. The zoning map showing the agricultural zoning and the zoning areas around the property. And the property is currently vacant, as you can see in the photos. And this is an aerial image of the property. This was the public notice given to the constituents within the vicinity of the property. And the site plan showing the layout of the proposed developments. And here it's in greater detail. You can see the 2 ponding areas towards the front of the property, facing Horizon Boulevard. And then the larger ponding area towards the back of the property. There would be a 6-foot rock wall enclosing the property. And the summary of the request is for approval of rezoning from A1 agricultural to R2 medium density residential to allow for an apartment complex. And at this time, I can answer any questions.
I believe the applicant wanted to come in. Maybe he can clarify a little bit of the questions that the public had.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Javier Carrera. This project is 288 units, and it is going to be a gated community. No Section 8. It's going to be market value, whatever it is, okay? We're going to have a 6-foot rock wall all the way around the property, and it's going to be, show the look. We're going to have a 6-foot rock wall all the way around the property, and it will be located on the property line. And from any of the buildings, can you put the site plan, this one, please? Excuse me. Okay. From any of the neighbors at Patty Joe Drive, we're going to be, for any neighbors that live on Patty Joe, we're going to be about 100 feet from you guys. From the edge of the building, the MFLE, whichever one of those, to the actual property line is 89 feet, 90 feet. And then you guys at least have another 20, so we're going to be at least 100 feet from our wall to the residential wall. It's a good chunk. And also, along that property line with the folks from Patty Joe Drive, we have a landscape buffer zone in there. We're going to have trees in there. We have a 5-foot area, so we're going to plant trees in there. Give it more buffer zone, okay? Along the back, along Spur Place, well, we have a ponding area, so we're not close to anybody along that area. And on Cheryl Place, we're really not close to anybody along Cheryl Place. We're far away. We have the ponding area in that area, okay? We have submitted this to TxDOT. Part of the submission was also to submit a traffic impact study that was submitted to TxDOT, and they're looking at that right now. Okay, if they're gonna put a stoplight or not, we don't know yet if they're gonna do it or not. You know, TxDOT just comes in and does their middle lanes and concrete stuff without asking anybody. They did it in front of my house too, so I'm not very happy with that either. So I agree with them about TxDOT. This is gonna be a really nice development. If you can see can you show them just the renderings? So. That's a clubhouse. We might add some stone, but for the purposes of this presentation, it's just we just have the clubhouse in there, and also a few buildings. And we're not using any high colors or anything like that. We're using soft grays that goes with everything right now. Okay. And like I said, well, there's going to be a gated community. We're going to have a pool. We're going to have a clubhouse. We're going to have a pet park. They're going to have everything in there for the needs of the folks that are going to live there, okay? And then another project, they also run around, they kind of made a track around there. They kind of run around at night or whatever with their dogs or whatever, because almost everybody has a dog now in the apartments. And at this point, we'll entertain any other questions that you guys have or that the public has that we can answer.
I have a question. Based on your traffic study, 288 units, what's the estimated amount of cars coming in and out?
It's about 300.
A day?
That's about 300.
Off of 288 units?
Yes, about 300 single cars. The parking is 1.5 cars per unit, or 2 if it's a 2-bedroom.
So
If it was,
1.5
so
per unit?
minimum is going to be 300 coming in and out, okay? Between 300 and 400. If this portion, or this part of land would be developed into residential area, you would have close to 200 houses.
But you said 1.5 per unit, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 288 times 1.5 is 432.
432? Yeah.
Come in and out.
Okay.
My next question is, during the development, did you all consider creating a dedicated lane, a deceleration lane from going south on Horizon onto the property?
We asked TxDOT if we could do a deceleration lane, but there's not a lot of space in there because there's a canal right behind it. So in order to do a deceleration lane, we'll go at least 300 feet before the entrance. That's right there. And what we presented was actually two entrances, one at the north end and one in the south end, also for the fire department.
I did see that one looks smaller than the other. Can you go over kind of the differences between the two entryways?
The main entryway is the one on the north,
Uh-huh.
and then the south entryway is a smaller one. That's like our secondary means of egress. And TxDOT hasn't told us to do a directional exit yet, because on the second exit, you cannot go across. You have to turn right.
So I'm sorry, that's why it kind of goes like half, because the other one is to go both ways.
Yes,
The
sir.
second one is just to turn right.
Yes, on the second one, we're gonna end up doing the directional exit, so people won't try to take off.
Do you have, and you have one entrance and exit on Patty Joe?
No,
No?
we're not accessing Patty Joe, Cheryl, or Spur at
So
all.
those are the two entry and exits
Mhm.
with no deceleration.
Yes. And then along with our neighbors from Patty Joe, we have our buildings far away from them, and what we have is just a street in there. So, they won't cause too much trouble with them, with the people or whatever. And we also put speed bumps, so people won't be racing in there either. We do that in all the developments. And like I said, this is a gated community, so whoever's gonna go there is because they either live there or they have business there or whatever.
Can you go over again what TxDOT said?
I'm sorry?
So my question is it sounds like you all had considered a dedicated deceleration lane to the apartment complex. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what did TxDOT say?
We didn't have enough room in there.
Okay.
For a deceleration lane, they want us to provide 300 feet of distance. And we don't have 300 feet of distance for the first entry that can go in and out.
And that would mean 300 feet from the north side
From the north side, yes,
to
sir.
the south side?
Yes, sir.
What's that distance?
Oh, from here to here, that's only about, to the canal, it's probably about 80 feet or so, 90 feet, más o menos. It's on the ponding area on the top. Yeah.
Okay.
And anytime we deal with TxDOT, we try to, TxDOT always wants a deceleration lane, so, and we agree with them, except on this one, there's no room in there for that.
Now, did they say you could not have a deceleration lane because you don't have 300 feet, or that it wasn't necessary?
Well, the last conversation I had with them was that they were not gonna require it because we're from that entry point to the other street, not the canal, but the other street over there, they were about 300 feet.
So if you wanted to, and of course, I understand that it'd be an additional cost, it'd have to cut into, affect how many units you would have on the property.
Yes, sir.
But if you as a developer, as the owner, wanted to, you could have had a deceleration road, and you all decided to have that expense in that?
Yes.
And included, okay.
Yes.
That was my question.
I have a
For him.
question.
Ms. Dominguez?
Since it's gonna be a gated community, will you have your own security?
Do we have security? Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. And another thing.
There's a management company that's there also, and they're open, they're on call 24,
Okay, great.
24/7.
And another question, how long will construction be? From
The
beginning to end?
The construction is gonna be about 12, 14 months.
12, 14 months.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to tell the community members that I don't think Moan, our attorney, could verify, back me up with this, that apartments won't raise your taxes if apartments go comparing to other apartments within the area. Is that correct, Moan?
Yeah, I'm not sure really what the effect would be, but it's also something the commission cannot take into account is how it affects the property values, because it could be a positive thing as well. It could increase everybody's values, decrease, you don't know. But yeah, I don't think your question was, is it valued as?
Will their taxes be raised or lowered, will it affect them?
Yeah, their home should be compared to other residential properties, but not to an apartment complex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah, this is about a $20+ million project,
okay.
so it's not inexpensive. So it's not gonna bother your taxes.
That's all. I'm good.
Any questions?
I have a question for staff, but not for the developer. So, nobody has a question. So my question for staff is, I know there's certain limits that we can take into account when voting for approval or denial. My question is, and I think I already know the answer, we cannot vote against it based off of, or we can't approve it with the caveat saying we want a deceleration road on this, right?
No, that can't be
That can be taken into account. Okay.
It's a text dot facility,
Uh-huh.
and they don't meet the requirements as set by text dot.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's going to be a great value to the community. It's going to be an increase to the tax revenue. I would have loved to have seen a deceleration road. Obviously, because we can't vote against, or we can't take that into consideration. But yeah, I think y'all should have included a deceleration road.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. Okay, so there is a traffic study in place. You submitted to TxDOT. You're
Yes, sir.
waiting to hear back from them. You're in communication with them.
Yes,
Okay.
we've been back and forth with TxDOT, yes, sir.
Okay, the traffic study was submitted to the city of Socorro? Was
Then we
that
send it over to you all.
Okay, because it's not in our agenda, and so, okay, added to that, if the traffic study was submitted to TxDOT, can we postpone a decision until we know what TxDOT is going to allow? Or is this something that we?
That sounds like a reasonable request, and we might be able to ask any other questions that you might have regarding the traffic access. I don't know if the applicant would be in agreement with that, but if you would like to make that request, we can.
Oh, okay, so,
It is a TxDOT road, and TxDOT would provide them access to the property, so that would be something that would be done through TxDOT. TxDOT wouldn't allow for something that would be unsafe.
unsafe. Okay. Well,
Can I add to that?
Sure.
I think that we can postpone it as a commission. Obviously, there's a timeline from when they submit to when it has to go through, right? That's what I remember from, but,
This is just a zoning, request.
That's right.
They are only asking that we consider changing the A1 agricultural zoning to R2 to build this apartment complex.
and they still have to go through the final plat.
No,
This is it.
I'm sorry, this still is in track form, so they do need to
We have to
provide a
replat.
preliminary and final. Yes, they still do need to go through the plating process.
Sorry, to kind of took over the question. My next question is there, well, I guess it, to be to both of you, is if it's already gone to TxDOT and they've already approved it, is there anything that we can do as local citizens requesting to TxDOT to see what they can do is to include a deceleration lane? Or is that process already over?
May I? Yeah, we already went through that process. During our conversation with TxDOT, they were asking us the distance from that other roadway north of us, to the first entrance.
Can
And
you
they
show
found-
the picture of the street to the north is Trump? It's very close. That would also be another, there you go. That one was fine, but, so, I think it's a little harder to see here, but
Same.
the applicant property is right there in the center. Then to the right of this on your screen is the drainage pond, and that street right there that you can see in gray is Trunk. Is that right? And yeah, so that would be another consideration for TxDOT. the proximity to that street as well.
Also, Texas does not have enough right-of-way. If you notice, all of the other ones, they don't have a decel lane in along Horizon. If they would have had a more of a bigger, wider right-of-way, like in other places of the city or whatever, they would have probably asked everybody else in there to do, especially on like the little shopping center right here, next to us, they would have asked them to also do a deceleration lane. But if you can see it on the plan, their right-of-way is too narrow.
I understand that. I just think it's, to consider 200, I mean, we're talking about potentially, we're looking at 288 units compared to 6 or 7 suites, right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, we don't have any ability to vote against it because of that, but I think the neighborly thing to do would have been to add a deceleration road.
Yes.
But, sorry, I interrupted your line of questions.
No, no, it's all questions that are on my mind as well. Okay, question? Yes. The ponding that's to the north of that, who has jurisdiction over that ponding area? The big ponding area that has a big rock wall around it?
The city?
The city of Socorro. Okay, so would the city of Socorro be willing to grant right-of-way to TxDOT so that there can be a deceleration lane from the other road? I can't tell which one it is, but is that a possibility?
Trunk, that would be something above my,
Okay, and then there's an
but we can
irrigation
definitely
easement.
ask,
Who-
But the other thing is is that also the canal?
There's a
in
canal.
Between the ponding area and or the lateral in between the ponding area and this property?
That's probably WID,
Would
right?
Yeah, would probably also be something to consider in the discussion about
The Mesa Drain?
Mesa Dream. Thank you.
Okay. So it's a possibility, but at this point, we're just voting on the rezoning,
zoning
part,
change.
on the zoning change. Okay, so, Horizon Boulevard there's a lot of traffic. I don't know how many times I've come close to rear-ending somebody who's turning into those shopping centers, right? The size of this particular parcel, that's a little much larger than anything else on Horizon, so I'm on board with any kind of recommendation, not at this meeting, I don't think we can do that, right, at this meeting, a recommendation for the deceleration lane, but in the future, I think we need to seriously look at that. But I'm good with the rezoning.
Yeah. Again, great project,
Great project.
great value. We dropped the ball on deceleration. At least that's just my view on it. As
Well,
a
we
city-
can submit other information once we go into the
Yeah.
plating,
I-
into the actual planning, we can.
I would tell you,
send
anything
more
on the
info.
final plat that you guys can add would be really incredibly
Yeah, we try to do something.
appreciated. Because I really do think that Horizon is,
Yes.
the carotid artery of the city of Socorro.
Maybe even having a bigger radius, instead of just a little radius, maybe a 40-footer.
Yeah, and the reason is because that's a controllable, that's something that as a business owner, that as a developer, you all could have acted on. Street lights, getting rid of the median, we have to go to TxDOT, that's a longer process. So as business owners, I always think control the controllables, right? And so I think that, again, great, but I think we could have added deceleration. I guess during Commissioner's report, we can talk about how we can add that to the city charter to where maybe we don't have to rely on TxDOT for that to be a part of what we want as a city. When we have something that's this big, affect the local roadways. But, yeah.
And something that could be considered, I've been in communities where TxDOT and the municipality had an agreement where the municipality had that decision-making power in the city as long as they consulted and followed TxDOT's guidelines. So
Even better.
that's something that is feasible and worth looking into.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. As far as the traffic study, is that available to the public? Is that a document that can be made available to the public?
Yes, anything that the city
Okay.
receives.
Okay, and so it can be made available to us when this comes up again?
Yes,
Okay,
to include in the packet?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Anybody else? No? Okay, so I'd like to make motion to approve, please.
I'll second it.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve, second by Osvaldo Reza. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consider and take action on the proposed approval of Trujillo subdivision, Unit 2, Replat B, being all of lots 1B, Block 1, Trujillo subdivision, Unit 2, Replat A, Socorro, Texas. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Item number 9 is the Trujillo subdivision, Unit 2, Replat B. Summary of the request is approval of replat to create 10 lots from one lot. This replat is connected to the rezoning that was previously presented. A little background on this case, it is currently zoned A1 agricultural. The size of the property is 2.36 acres. It's located at 10330 Socorro Road. It's currently vacant, and the proposed land use is residential. The request is of one lot into 10 residential lots. And planning and zoning staff recommends approval. And once again, here's the location map showing the property next to Cupic and Socorro Road. And once again, the zoning map showing the current agricultural zoning. Pictures of the property currently vacant. And the aerial image showing the size of the property. This is the original plat that was filed. And the replat showing the 10 residential lots and the ponding area. And once again, the summary of the request is for approval of a replat to create 10 lots from one lot. And at this time, I can answer any questions. The applicant is also on the call if you guys have further questions.
We just voted on the preliminary, and this is the final?
The item on the agenda was for the rezoning from agricultural to R2. And so we brought them together because the replat would then disqualify the property from being able to be an agricultural zone.
Okay. So doesn't the city council have to approve the rezone before we can look at the replat?
We can take them both together, it's just a recommendation. You are recommending that they approve the zoning, and if they were to deny the zoning for whatever reason, then they would not be able to approve the replat.
Okay, and,
It is-
I'm sorry, go ahead,
It's not uncommon for us
for them to go together.
take together.
And for a replat, preliminary isn't necessary?
No, because it's already been platted, and all we're doing is either maybe subdividing an
Sub-
existing plat or combining lots into one.
Kind of like a subdivision or like cutting a big one, like we see a lot of those making 20,000 square foot lot into two 10,000 square foot lots. It's the same process.
The only difference being that this
This
is
is lot.
already a platted, filed subdivision.
Okay, so no replat, no preliminary is necessary?
No.
Okay.
Preliminary is reserved for when it's a tract form,
Track to a subdivision,
tract or a part of it, yes.
okay.
There's something you can,
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros to approve, and second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 10, consider and take action on the proposed approval of a preliminary plat for Vista Bonita Estates Unit 2, being a portion of Tract 5, Block 24, San Elizario Grant, El Paso County, Texas. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Staff will be recommending to postpone the item per the applicant's request to the May 16th Planning and Zoning Commissioners meeting.
Question. What was the reason for them wanting to postpone?
They submitted the park dedicated land that the county was requesting, and we just wanted to they wanted to go ahead and allow staff extra time to go ahead and review that submission.
Okay, so staff needs to review what they last submitted?
No, what they recently submitted,
What they
which
recently
had been
submitted.
pending from the last agenda.
Okay, what was that? Can you clarify? The park?
Dedicated parkland.
The dedicated parkland.
We had required it as part of the City of Socorro's
Okay.
parkland dedication ordinance, and the county had requested the property because it's in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, and they had not wanted to submit that, but they went ahead and submitted it. And we just want to make sure that it follows all of the City of Socorro's requirements.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to ask some questions if I may, because there's a lot of people that live in that adjacent subdivision. They're present today, so is that okay? Is that good? Okay. So, and I just want to ask some questions to clarify for the people that are present. And so they submitted a couple of weeks ago, and it was postponed because staff had requested certain items from them, which I believe was a traffic study, and then you were requesting a park, I believe. That's what I understood from from 2 weeks ago.
The only thing that was pending was the park,
Okay.
and the traffic study had been submitted. The only thing that staff had recommended was that they update the traffic study, which they did not. They still submitted the 2017 traffic impact study.
Okay.
And then they had not wanted to submit the park, but then decided that they did. They did not get that park approved by the owner in time for the meeting last week, and then were able to submit that today.
Okay, so who was not able to get it approved by the owner? The engineer? It
The
didn't complete it in
consultants or the
time
engineers
to take it to the
on
owner
their
so that
side.
the owner could sign off? Okay. And so the owner, the developer, they're the ones requesting the postponement?
Yes, so we verified with them that we were going to be presenting the agenda today, and they requested to postpone
requested to
for,
postpone.
yes, sir, for the May 16th P and Z meeting.
Okay, so I want to address other members of, the traffic study that they submitted was dated 2017? Okay, so back in 2017, we were looking at the same situation with Unit 1, and they're using the same traffic study for this time around from 2017. Okay, so you asked that they update it, and they did not update it. They submitted the same one, basically? They didn't update it from the last time, from 2 weeks ago. They didn't do anything.
Correct.
Right, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay, so I guess my question is, can we require that they submit a current traffic study before we even review before you submit anything before us to vote on it? 2017 is several years ago. A lot has changed since then. Can we do that? Can we make a motion once that is presented, that they provide a current traffic study? Maybe, well, if they don't have one now, it's going to have to be dated as of today. Can we do that?
So, since that applicant's not here and they haven't had a chance to present, it's probably something you can keep in mind, but you need to give them an opportunity to present. And then at that time, you can make, whatever motions you feel appropriate.
So this item at all, you won't be presenting anything, you're not able to, even if we were to ask that you present it right now, you're not able to present it? And I'm talking for the general public because they came out, there's neighbors that live in the subdivision, and I would want them to see But is it possible to go ahead with the presentation of what you have so far, or is that not possible?
So typically, the applicants, they're entitled to ask for a postponement.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to grant it, but they are allowed to ask for it. You know, and typically, I mean, I would say, also say is you need to give the applicants a fair chance to, you know, provide their perspective and their side of the case and then make a decision.
I do have a question. Now, was the owner, because I mean, the engineer's gonna do what the owner sends them with the message, right? I guess, my question is they did not want to, were they combative in not wanting to do the park, or did they pull the request back because they knew you as staff was going to recommend denial? Do you have a sense of what that?
It might have just been a little bit of back and forth, and maybe a little bit of misunderstanding. The county, whether or not it was or wasn't required, the county asking for maybe something that was outside of the city of Socorro's parkland dedication ordinance.
They might not have been aware of the ordinance. I'm sure you guys told them.
Well, they submitted a park initially and then took it off. So I believe there might have been a little bit of back and forth that caused some confusion as to whether or not it was required.
Because I know the park, we're looking at changing the park register.
Parkland dedication ordinance?
Yes. So I don't know if they're just waiting for that or what that.
That was recently approved, right, within the last year or so?
Right.
I don't think there's any more edits to the Parkland dedication ordinance that I'm aware of. So I
Well,
think the recent change was,
I think the ordinance is about to change, no? I don't think we've changed the park ordinance
I think
recently.
it changed
we changed it recently.
We did change it recently?
Beautiful.
a couple of months ago.
Okay,
A couple of months ago.
okay.
If I remember correctly, I mean, yeah.
I might have been out there. Okay.
Yeah, actually, to answer your question, I'm trying to remember what happened too, is I think I was in front of city council, it may have been November or December, but I do recall them, I think, approving it.
Okay.
And the reason, so you know, is that there was a ton of applications coming in and it needed to be fixed, like immediately.
Because it was that discussion between, do we want so many dedicated square feet or 3% of the
Right.
value?
And I don't recall if it came here first and then it went to city council.
Yes.
Right, but it was approved, that's what I do remember.
Yes, sir.
How many times are they allowed to postpone? If I don't recall, it got postponed last time as well. I mean, it's just for the public, you know, they're gonna be here so many times. How many times are they allowed, is there a limit on how many times they can postpone before we present it to the public?
Yeah, I don't think there's a limit. I think at least once is fine if upon their request. You know, a lot of times too, they can also ask that the item just be pulled, but not be heard completely, so that's also something they can ask for. But a lot of times they paid fees or for the application, so I think maybe they would have to pay for it twice. So I think, you know, typically if they ask for it a first time, you know, I think you're well within your right to grant it. If it's multiple times, you know, then it might be a problem. But the same thing also happens on the flip side, is that the Planning and Zoning Commission, if you guys postpone an item, you know, what is the limit on it? You can postpone something once, maybe you need more information, but if you postponed it 20 times in a row, you know, then an applicant would say, well, you're not giving them a fair chance to even be heard. So there is a limit, right, on it. There's no hard and fast rule on that either, but enough time to give people an opportunity to be heard. And then if they don't show up for, you know, a particular reason and they were given the opportunity.
If I remember correctly, anything that comes to planning and zoning has to be either voted yea or nay within like 30 days or 60 days by per state law, something like that? Does that
So,
sound familiar?
yeah, that's preliminary and final plats, that's correct. There is a time limit on that, and again, that happened because, you know, developers actually had a big lobby in Austin, and they got the laws changed, and they're kind of in their favor on that. But there was a lot of delay in cities, and so it cost developers time and money, and so.
And if for any reason, and this I don't know, if it's denied, not saying that I'm voting or making a suggestion to deny it, but as a point of clarification, if it's denied, it cannot come back for a year?
It would still go to city council
It would
next.
still go to city
Yeah.
council? Yes, sir. Okay. Just a
Approved or
clarification.
denied, it goes to city council.
If city council denies it, then there's a time frame where they gotta wait a year before they bring it back, correct? Or
Yeah, there's certain time limits. I think you're asking about around is this the rezoning or the preliminary? Which,
this-
Number 10.
yeah, so there's a time limit on certain items that it can't be brought back within 12 months.
Is this one of those items? This is a preliminary plat, I believe?
To replat.
It's a
Yeah,
replat?
oh, we're on the preliminary plat right now?
Oh, sorry.
This is- this-
Okay,
It's
okay.
preliminary.
Yeah, so on this particular item, since it's a preliminary plat, and it's at the request actually of the developer, the 30 days won't take against the city. Yeah, and I think the 1-year limit is on some other items. I don't think it's necessarily on this item, yeah.
It's on rezonings.
Rezoning? The 1-year limit on rezoning, before they can bring it back.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
On the rezoning, yes.
Okay, but not on the preliminary.
No, you can, yeah.
City council can deny it, and they can turn right around and resubmit, try it again?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so there's a, 5 years ago, and I kind of talked about this in the past, but this is a very contentious, I guess, battle here between this owner, the developer, and the city of Socorro. It went as high, with the mayor, with the city planner. Of course, all the neighbors adjacent to this subdivision or this proposed subdivision. So with that said, there are people here that would like to speak. They signed up to speak. Can we have one or two of them come up and speak and give just a general history? Or is that not possible because you're not presenting the item?
I would say you're not taking the item. The request is to postpone, and as Marwan just said, you have the option to approve or deny that, and then approve or deny not taking any action. It'd be up to the commission to suspend the rules and listen, and also to the benefit of the applicant not being here to listen, also would be something to consider.
But you asked the applicant to submit a current traffic study and they didn't do it, blatantly didn't do it. And that's where you were coming from. You were asking, okay, was there
I just want to get a
anything
sense
there?
of how, I forgot, or I didn't get a chance, or was it contentious, or what?
Well-
I do have a question of how many people signed up to speak on this item?
We have one.
So in my opinion, and I'm not an expert on Robert's Rules of Order, since it's an open item, we still get to vote whether we postpone it or not. And if we open it up to the public, I think there's one person that signed up, I think we should let them, just kind of hear them out. And I'm sure the developer is either going to watch it on YouTube or, it's something that they can make sure that they're prepared for. But
Okay,
I think we would just need the chair to open it to the public.
do we need to move forward in hearing the item and so that we can allow one person to speak, or can we basically postpone the item but still allow one person to speak? What would be the way to allow somebody to speak on it?
Yeah, I think my recommendation actually would be to take a vote whether or not you want to postpone it. And then, this really should be saved for the actual public hearing when the applicant comes, and then because they need to have a chance also to be able to respond. It's like holding hearings in absentia with the person not present.
So
But that would be like criminal proceedings,
So in
right?
other words,
So
it
this
could
is-
come back the other way around. Right, 'cause the public could not be here, but the applicant is, and the applicants aren't here able to speak, and, you know, in other words, karma could come around. If we're not giving the applicant a chance to speak now, it could come back and be bad on us at a future date.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up because in the past, it was bad. There was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting. It went around and around for years and years and years, and they finally got through with phase one. But there was an agreement, in order to get phase one passed, there was an agreement that they would not have access into Rancho Mirabal. And now they're here requesting access into Rancho Mirabal. I may be wrong on this, but they agreed, or it might be in the covenants, they agreed to put in the covenants that the home buyers of all the parcels needed to build rock walls around the perimeter. So if you bought a lot that was adjacent to the perimeter of that subdivision, the buyer needed to build that rock wall, and that's certainly not happening. The developer, at that point, they would not agree to build that perimeter rock wall. That was something that they were not gonna do. So what I'm saying is that in order for them to get phase one approved, there was an agreement with the zoning board and with the city council that they would do certain things, and they haven't done it. And that they would be in agreement to not ask for, did the mic go out? Okay. That they would not come back and ask for access into Rancho Mirabal, and that's precisely what they're asking for here. And then the other part that kind of irks me is the fact that they're submitting a traffic study from 2017, because these are the kind of things that they were doing back then to try to, you know, if you can imagine going through the same stuff for years, trying to get it done, and finally it got approved. That's how I remember it. Everybody on the zoning board was different at that time. I wasn't on the zoning board, but I was certainly in the meetings. So I just want a clear picture before we vote on it, so that everybody knows what's happening. And one of the neighbors has been on this for many, many years, so that's why I would like for him to speak.
Yeah, I would recommend, I mean, now this is up to you guys. There's several legal issues you kind of raised. If you want to move into executive session, I can discuss them further in executive session. But that's your call.
Okay, so legal issues that I brought up in what I was saying right now?
Yeah, I think there's, because it sounds like you had some questions, but those I'd need to answer, yeah, in executive.
In executive session. Okay, I make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion made by David Estrada to move into executive, and second by Enrique Cisneros. Do I have, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Yeah, there was a pending item, so you can make now a motion, anybody can. Yeah. That's. You just say we're back, you know, you get concessions and then we're back on to the regular meeting. And then, but then you can ask if anybody has a motion. Yeah, and I think you want to note the time, so we're.
One. They say Sherman.
Yeah, we'll have the chair announcing it.
Executive session, and we would go back to this item, and I would like to make a motion to postpone this item to May 16th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to postpone.
I'm so sorry, I don't mean to, we would like everybody just to know that this will come back on the May 16th, and we really ask that you all come back in 2 weeks and just join in this meeting again. Mr. David, I don't know if anybody else has anything else for the public.
No, based on our attorney's recommendation, it's the best thing to wait and postpone. Come back. Support, come back. It's not open forum right now.
It's
Sorry.
not- yeah, sorry.
Yeah, May 16th.
So, therefore, I make a motion to postpone to May 16th.
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to postpone item for May 16th, second by Osvaldo Reza. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 11, consider and take action on the proposed approval of subdivision replat to create 2 lots from 1 lot with a variance to allow a smaller lot size with the R1 single-family residential zoning and being a block of Block 16, Lot 6, Bauman Estates Number 3, located at 11351 Hovey Drive, Socorro, Texas. Mr. Botella?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Item number 11 is the Soria subdivision replat with a variance request. So the summary of the request is for approval of a subdivision replat, to create 2 lots from 1 lot with a variance to allow a smaller size with the R1 single-family residential zoning. Some background on this case, it is currently R1, which is single-family residential. The size of the property is 26,247 square feet. It's located at 11351 Hovey Drive. It's a residential land use. The proposed land use would remain residential, and the request is to approve the replanting of 1 lot. Oh, I'm sorry. It's supposed to say 2 residential lots with a variance to allow smaller lot size with the R1 single-family residential zoning, and planning and zoning staff recommends approval. And this is a location map showing the property located on Hovey Drive. And the zoning map showing that the area within the property is R1s. Some pictures of the property currently. And this is the aerial image of the property. This is the original plat that was approved. And this is a replat showing the division of the property from one lot to two residential lots. And once again, the request is to approve the replatting of one lot, and I apologize for the typo, into two residential lots with a variance to allow a smaller lot size with the R1 single-family residential zoning. And at this time, I can answer any questions.
Is this something that was non-conforming and the city of Socorro brought it out? Did somebody complain that there were two structures or two dwellings on one lot? Or did the applicant just come on his own to request a lot split?
My understanding is the applicant came to request the lot split.
Okay. He wasn't, like cited or, the city of Socorro didn't bring anything to his attention?
No.
Not to, no sir, not to our
But
knowledge.
it was legal non-conforming?
No, so, she didn't get no notice of violation. It's something that I believe she's been trying to do, but there's no violation on this lot, on record.
How old are the existing structures? How long have they been there? I'm guessing they're two single-family homes. There's two houses on there?
Yes, sir. The applicant is actually here, if you guys like to hear on detailed questions.
Yeah.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. ¿Nos pudiera dar poquita historia de la propiedad? Porque cómo es que están dos casas ahí, cuándo se fincaron.
Sí, claro que sí. Más o menos fue en el año 89 que compramos el terreno de dos familias, porque es un terreno bastante amplio, ¿verdad? Grande, y lo compramos en dos familias para dividirlo en dos. Y ya el terreno ya tenía una plancha, en la plancha de enfrente. Y atrás fue donde se construyó otra casa que fue en el 90, más o menos.
Okay. Was there even permitting back then in the city of Socorro in 90?
The city reincorporated in 87?
Should be on your shirt.
So it's something that could have fallen through the cracks. It's been there a long time. Okay. Ahorita está pensando en vender una sección o nomás está pensando para el futuro tenerlo ya separado?
Sí, separar porque la propiedad de atrás es de mi sobrino. Él no fue el primero que la compró, pero ahorita él es el que vive allí y pues no tiene ningún papel a su nombre. Por eso es la primera razón, para que él tenga ya su título. La segunda sería porque los taxes no están, aunque ya la propiedad está dividida por los taxes, no tiene los, ¿cómo se dice?, el tamaño que debe, como está construido ahorita. ¿Verdad? Esa sería la segunda razón.
Okay. Interesting. I'm just looking at the odd shape on it, but I understand why, and unfortunately,
Probably
it's
for an
Socorro.
accessibility
Yeah.
entrance to the back.
¿Cada propiedad tiene sus propios útiles?
Sí.
Su agua y luz y todo.
Sí.
Okay, what was the question? ¿Tiene dos miras de agua ya tiene dos miras de agua, dos miras de luz,
Sí,
dos miras de gas también?
Sí,
¿Ya
también.
las tiene?
sí.
¿Desde cuándo las tiene? ¿Desde los 90?
Sí, casi, bueno, como cuando nosotros agarramos el terreno todavía no había drenaje,
Sí.
ni gas, ni agua.
Pero ya
En
los
cuanto tuvimos que llegaron los servicios, los pusimos.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay, and then my last question is, what's the width of the right-of-way? I can't tell. The panhandle part here.
The driveway, the access?
Yeah.
You had measured it to
About
be,
18, 19 feet.
How much?
18, 19 feet.
Is that enough? It looks wider than that. But I don't know, I can't tell.
I think, if I remember correctly, the minimum needed was 13 feet, so that in case of emergency vehicles. right?
Okay.
So it meets
So it's just basically a drive, it's just a driveway.
Just just an accessibility route
Yeah.
to me, to the back, to get into that lot. Well, that's how I'm reading it, más o menos.
Yeah. Yeah, pues they need the accessibility and then split it and go on.
The way that I look at it, it's kind of one of those that, you know, other than tearing down the building, you know, that you just gotta go with it at this point. But yeah, so I don't have a problem.
Rezoning, like making it like into multifamily doesn't achieve what she's trying to achieve. though.
The hard part, lo difícil, o sea, ya están construidas las casas, ¿verdad? Lo difícil sería, para que se quedara todo la área en R1, sería tener que tirar una de las casas, ¿verdad? Eso no van a hacer eso, ¿verdad? O sea, ni yo creo que deben de hacer eso. Lo difícil va a ser de que cuando otro vecino quiera partir su terreno a la mitad, ¿verdad? Una de las cosas que van a decir, que van a usar es de que, bueno, pues tenemos vecinos que ya partieron el terreno a la mitad, ¿por qué no lo puedo hacer yo? ¿Verdad? Se me hace que eso nomás es algo que tenemos que dar con eso cuando llegue el momento así, pero ¿qué sería el variance, la diferencia de R1? ¿Cuánto sería si lo regular para R1 es 8,000 pies cuadrados, ¿cuánto sería? ¿Qué es el lote más chico?
Sería como, el mínimo es 8,500
Ajá.
y el lote que de enfrente sería de 8,316.
Eso no es mucha la diferencia. Es nomás una realidad del terreno y de la situación. No le veo otra alternativa más que pro.
¿Cómo se distinguen ustedes dos de la residencia? ¿Tienen dos domicilios o un domicilio nomás?
2 domicilios. Sí, uno es 11351 y el otro es 11355.
¿Y tiene así desde un principio?
No,
¿No? ¿Cuándo fue ese cambio?
cuando pedí que se hicieran, apliqué para un descuento de mi casa por los taxes y ahí se hizo.
Okay. So Central Appraisal District assigned the rest?
Hay un descuento después de cierta edad y gente de disabilidad, military, homestead, so hay diferentes descuentos.
But they are the ones that, Central Appraisal District is the one that assigned the addresses?
They wouldn't have assigned addresses, and I'm not sure how that would work if it's still just one lot, how an exemption would apply to 2 pieces of property within one lot. That I am unfamiliar with. Or who might have given the address. It would have probably come from either us or 911. I don't know, again, when that change was made.
Sí me sorprende que esté todo separado, ¿verdad? Los fútiles,
Yeah.
Central
Yeah.
Appraisal District, the
Addresses.
post office, todo, menos la ciudad de Socorro. Porque usualmente...
But it's not separate at the Central Appraisal District. It's one bill, and that's what she's trying to do, is separate the two. And that's why I'm trying to make the request today
Ajá.
to make it into 2 lots.
Porque hay veces que me corrigen si tengo la razón o no, muchas veces se hace el cambio para que les llegue los útiles, ¿verdad? Para que la gas, agua, luz los defina como 2 diferentes propiedades, ¿verdad? Pero bueno, me imagino que si la ciudad de Socorro aprueba la distinción entre las 2 propiedades, pues le va a solucionar el problema con el Central Appraisal District, ¿no? O no sabe, eso ya esté para ellos.
But she takes this, I believe, from here, for this approval from the city, then she takes it to Central Appraisal and then they do the separation, I believe.
Porque sí, ya en la división en 2 lotes, ya Central Appraisal tiene 2 cuentas. Pero una buena pregunta es cuando se dieron las 2 direcciones, porque la ciudad, cuando diga que más de un negocio en un lote, tiene la misma dirección, pero es A, B, C o algo así.
Okay, I'm good.
I'm okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros to approve, second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 12, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
Yes, I've got a question. Going back to the TIAs, right? When they're part of what planning and zoning is asking the applicant to do. That is something that they have to have, right, to get approved?
It is,
Or how long can it be used until it needs a new one?
you know what, that might not be in the ordinance. It is in the ordinance that outlines when one is required. So if there is an instance where it might be a very small subdivision and it doesn't require a TIA, but I don't think that the ordinance requires it have a time frame that it's acceptable.
Yeah, that's correct. There's no listed time frame on the expiration of a traffic impact analysis from.
Or requirement that it be of a certain, you know, timeframe within.
Okay.
I do have a question on that. So we cannot vote against a development based on a positive or negative traffic report. That I understand. My question is, and this is just as a request, can we get some clarification as to, can we deny a request because one was not provided?
Yes, we can
Get some clarification on that.
clarification on that.
And then the second thing is, I'd like to request to see if staff can look at some history based on just the people that were here and walked out after the Laguna Bonita Estates Unit 2 was postponed, right? So that's the only motivation I have to get in some history on that development is based off of the large number of people that walked out on it, not any other prejudice or anything else, but just based on, because we vote on stuff all the time and we rarely have that many participants or that many citizens or people show up to the meetings. Secondly, and this is just personally for me, can I get a copy of the park ordinance, and can we also, you had mentioned that it would be a good thing to collaborate with TxDOT on what we can do as a city for deceleration lanes when we have significant developments like the one we looked at today? That was my question. Thank you.
And I'd like to add to that question. In all reality, right? I know TxDOT is TxDOT and they've got their own rules and they, you know, pretty much it's them. How much impact does Socorro have as far as requesting, right? If we were to request something, I've dealt with TxDOT before and they're pretty tough. I mean, it's
They have
just what
requirements, and
they have
those are
requirements.
statewide, and they apply
Right.
to the state pretty uniformly.
Right.
But the, you know, local TxDOT district has representatives that we work with and would definitely be able to direct us to resources that we need, if we
Right.
need them, and open up avenues so that maybe just be a little more involved upfront, so that maybe we can address some of these things ahead of time.
And is that something that we can do as a commission, or is it like, for example, like me, I lived here in Socorro all my life and stuff, and can I write a letter to TxDOT and saying, hey, this is my opinion on whatever subdivision's going up or traffic or whatnot?
Yeah, I think is that, you know, any community member here can write letters to TxDOT, and they have, I thought they were here recently, or maybe a city council, where they have the public outreach and they have these public community meetings. So that's really the best way to get some input. But, and then to answer your question of whether or not they'll actually then listen and do something with it, that's a whole different thing, because I think, because it's a, you know, basically a state body, it's still controlled in Austin. I'll tell you that I review the agreements with TxDOT and City of Socorro whenever they do enter into agreements. And any changes that come from the city to TxDOT and goes to the attorney, the answer is always 100% no, we're not changing one word.
Right. One more, and just to that, is there a way that we can find out, us as commissioners, which streets fall under Text dot?
Yes.
And that way, because if something comes up, we know what we're dealing with, I mean,
Socorro, Alameda,
right,
Socorro Road,
North Loop, Horizon, right.
right? Did I get everything?
North Loop.
North Loop.
And I think we've been spoiled, because a lot of the developers that I've seen over the last 3-4 years have all done deceleration roads. So that's why, I guess I want to reiterate that that's very much appreciated. On previous developments, yeah, they've done deceleration, but again, at their cost.
I'll tell you that on the Nueva Tanks Road, I was involved in that from the acquisition and then all the way through when it actually opened up. We dealt with text out on that one as well as, everything takes time on those. And that took 10 years from the very beginning of starting the studies on it till being done. And so trying to get their attention and, it was 10 years.
Another rigid structure within TechSot is funding.
Yeah, because sometimes the funding runs out and that's it, and it's gonna take a couple of years for it to come back. Sometimes the funding all comes all of a sudden, and then the city needs to act overnight to start doing things. So, it's just one of those things that takes time, because I remember there was something else that came up here recently, I think you had questions about when TechStop did come here, about how quick they could do things. And, it does take them a very, very long time. And even if the city wants it and is ready to jump in, they're on a whole different time frame. And all their agreements with the cities and everything, there's paragraphs in there that say, well, this is subject to funding, saying, and even if the state doesn't have funding, the whole thing's off the table, and that's it. So it's kind of a lengthy process, and usually it outlives actually the
City
staff
council,
and-
yeah. New faces.
Yeah. Interesting.
I have a question. If we do decide to write to TxDOT or something, do you think we should send it to our city representative first, or just straight to TxDOT?
As citizens, you always have the right, you don't need to ask anybody for permission. If you wanted to send a letter, although I would say you shouldn't write it on behalf of the commission, but write it as yourself. You can do it, you don't need to ask anybody. But if you want to maybe make a bigger impact and really get the right people and sit down and talk to them, it might help to talk to city council and get a few people on board and then see if they can arrange a meeting, and bring up those kind of concerns. So they kind of know also how to get the attention of the right people in TxDOT as well, and the city manager as well.
So as a point of clarification, I could see somebody raising their hands, but unfortunately, right now is the commissioner's report where we kind of ask questions, and then it'll be staff. For the public forum is usually at the very beginning of any planning and zoning meeting, which is when the public has the ability to speak. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, staff can get with you after the meeting, since that part of the meeting has closed and been resolved. And there is another opportunity for public comment at the city council meeting. The recommendation of this board on that item will be forwarded to city council for another public meeting.
That's why I was trying to get my question, because you guys were talking about tech stuff, and that's what my question, I have a question about that.
Yeah, we can try to answer that question for you after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we can stay.
No other questions? No? Okay.
Item number 13, Planning and Zoning Department report.
I don't have any new items to report beyond what covered last meeting. We did forward a contract to Matrix, so expecting that back shortly to begin the
is the report of all the list of the ordinances of the city?
I'm
How
sorry?
thick is the booklet that you could provide us of all the ordinances of the
We can
city?
show you where it is online and to show you how to navigate that, because a really great resource that you have online that you don't have with the paper ordinance of the whole city ordinances, which is about that big, is, is a link to previous ordinances. So some things that no longer apply or have been repealed still are available on the online version.
Okay, great.
I think you access that online, correct? That's what you're doing?
Yeah,
that's what-
and
yeah,
actually, so sometimes if you're asking a question, I'm actually live
You're
looking at the ordinance sometimes to find it very quickly.
You're not watching YouTube videos.
No, no. And it actually lets you search by words, so if you say, I have a question on a replat, I'm searching replat and finding the ordinance,
Yeah.
and I try to find it very quickly, if I can, on the fly, but.
But also, to your question, the current things that apply to planning and zoning, subdivision, zoning, and maybe building and construction, if you want that information, would probably be about the 80. So it wouldn't be that much.
Okay.
If you wanted like just the current planning
I think, can we have a hard copy of that, please?
and then, okay.
Yeah, just for our notations, make notes for exercise. Thank you.
I have a request, and I think we've touched on it lightly in the past, but when we're presenting an item, or each item, and so I'll give an example. So for example, if there's a rezone or a request to build a multifamily within a subdivision, I weigh my personal decision on the entire subdivision, the original intent of the subdivision, and so what we've been seeing is just a section of the subdivision, maybe just a radius or something, and it doesn't give me a clear picture of how many lots within that subdivision have been rezoned, or how many have been split, or how many other apartments or duplexes are within that subdivision, and so I'd like to take that into consideration in making a decision. So
That's great.
if we can do that, that'd be,
Definitely include that in the staff reports and change
Okay.
up some maps to reflect that.
okay, cool, thank you.
And also, if anyone else finds that something would be beneficial, by all means,
Okay.
let us know and we can make the do our best to provide that information.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to adjourn, second by Julie Dominguez. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 7:29.